Hello, Heisman.
20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 45. There goes Davis. Oh, my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
I give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. All the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone.
Four-man Alabama rush. Got him. No, they didn't. Oh, my gracious.
Yep.
How about that?
Well, what if I told you that we've saved college football bowl season? More importantly, more specifically, Trey might have saved college football bowl season. Listen, we're to Bowl Mania, bowl season, the postseason, and obviously we're really excited about the 12-team playoff here on the 3 Technique College Football Podcast at the intersection of the X's and O's and the Jimmies and the Joes. If you're new to this show, welcome. If you're an OG, a Jimmy and a Joe, you know we're excited about the 12-team playoff. But you also know that we love bowl season around here. And there's a lot of people complaining, Trey, about, bowl season doesn't matter. And man, it's impossible to pick confidence pool pick'ems anymore with all the opt-outs and the guys that, they might play or they might not, and the transfer portal, etc. But we've sat down and tried to come up with a solution. We have a full bowl media preview guide for you to consume that'll be published on our Substack. We're going to talk bowl games here. But Trey, first and foremost, we're not just going to talk about the problem. We're going to try and solve it tonight.
That's absolutely what we set out to do. And if you're watching on YouTube, if you want to just help a boy out for fixing all of college football, it's right there. I'll just say that. I don't want to get banned for saying anything or anything like that, but it is right there. That is for just a little pick-me-up for this holiday season. It's
going to ask you a couple questions.
It's going to ask you a couple questions, and if you want to thank someone for saving college football, it's right there. And I really do. I'm not the first one. We are not the first ones that have come up with the concept of essentially a college football playoff NIT, to use the basketball analogy. We're not the first ones by any stretch of the imagination to put that out there. I do think this system of organizing it and figuring it out, I think it's a win-win-win for everybody involved. I'm really excited to talk about it.
That's right. So basically just a run of show here. It's just Trey and I on the show tonight. Garrett will join us on another episode. We're going to run through what Trey has tried to organize and put together, a new bracket, like he said, the NIT, which again, you've seen probably on a lot of social media channels at this point. But Trey, I think, did a little bit more, some digging. There's a lot more reasoning behind the brackets, and I'm gonna let him explain all that, and then we'll get into the top storylines of bowl season. We're gonna have playoff storylines. I'm gonna record another episode after this that'll drop later in the week. So if you're new, whether you're on the YouTube side or over on the podcast side, hit subscribe, hit follow, leave us a like or a rating. That really helps us continue to grow the show and help us connect with other Jimmies and Joes like yourself. But Trey, we'll get to the bowl games and, kind of top storylines, matchups that we think are interesting. But I'm just thrilled to dive into this bracket, the bracketology, honestly, that you've put together. So without any further ado, take it away, my friend.
Well, let's start, I guess, with the problem and why we're doing this. I think that's really important to answer.
Sure.
If we're going to massively reform the college football postseason, it makes sense to talk about why we're doing that. First and foremost, you mentioned it off the top, Mitch, the bowl system as we know it is just a shell of its former self. There's way too many games. There's not a lot of meaning attached to it for most of the programs that are involved. Sure, there's a lot of new coaches that are really excited to have a breakthrough season with their program. Sure, there's a lot of players that want one more game with their brothers that they've been playing with for all these years. Absolutely great. And we love bowls. We're doing a whole bowl preview show, right? Like, we are not anti-bowl. But the creation of the bowl system is from a bygone era that just doesn't exist anymore in college football. We need to evolve if we want to save them in any sort of meaningful situation or meaningful type of postseason. So what we created here is a couple levels behind the college football playoff where teams that didn't make the college football playoff, they didn't make the 12-team or maybe in a couple of years the 14-team college football playoff, have something to play for. There's a couple different levels here Well, let's start with the college football playoff NIT, and whatever you want to call it, the National College Football Invitational, whatever you want to call it. Essentially, it's going to be a 24-team bracket that starts on campus and goes to bowls just like the college football playoff. So here, while I get that pulled up, Mitch, maybe you want to talk about just a couple things, a couple reasonings behind, maybe a couple more reasons why we're nixing bowls in the first place.
Yeah, I think, and maybe nixing is the wrong word. I think it's like repurposing bowl games,
Yeah,
right? And
that's a great way
I
to
think
put it.
it's the issues are obvious with the transfer portal, the windows that open, the financial incentive for these guys to opt out of the bowl game, to hop into the transfer portal as quickly as they can and go find a new landing spot. It's disturbing, and it's going to break the sport at some point. And we've had the transfer portal for a couple of years now, but as NIL has become more and more commonplace and you have more and more quote unquote NIL agents spring up, they're telling kids to hop into the portal no matter how good the situation that they're currently in is. There's going to be a couple of kids that likely hop in the portal over the next couple of weeks that, I've been told one specific name behind the scene that I don't know if I'm fully going to believe it until it happens. And we're not in the business of breaking news and spreading rumors, so I'm not going to name that athlete. But, even listening to Dusty and Danny in the morning driving into work today, CBS Sports was saying the exact same thing, that there are guys that are behind the scenes being told by their NIL agents, and again, in air quotes, NIL agents, hey, go into the portal. You'll find more money elsewhere. You'll find a better situation elsewhere, when they're playing at blue blood programs in the hunt for a national championship. Like, this is not April and they're looking forward. They're at a nice program with a good shot at making the program. No, this is one of the 12 teams left in the hunt for a national championship. And you've got guys, starters, that are planning on hopping in the portal as soon as this season's done. For all of those reasons and many more, the bowl games, if you're not playing in those now 12 spots for a playoff, they've essentially become meaningless. There's not really a prize to them. I mean, most fans aren't going to really care one way or another. But Trey, to end a long story short, we're trying to add meaning and give a point again to these bowl games, the Gator Bowl, the Liberty Bowl, what have you, being played and actually being fun for the fans that care about their team and quite honestly, the fans of college football in general. Because right now, I mean, you name a random bowl, 68 Ventures Bowl, if you're not a college football sicko or an Arkansas State or Bowling Green fan, you're probably not tuning in at 8 o'clock.
Or gambler, or a degenerate gambler.
Well, yeah, exactly. But the larger fan base as a whole, where ESPN makes all their money, I don't know that they're going to have a lot of great returns as the bowl system is laid out for now. So I think I've done enough filibustering. You've got it set. I'll turn it back over to you.
Great job. Letting me get that set up. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching the podcast, you're wondering why Mitch had to filibuster. I had to get a spreadsheet bracket set for the YouTube audience. But really, there's three main entities, I guess 4 if you want to count the fans. We should count the fans. So 4 entities that you really need to think about when you're talking about these bowl games and trying to fix the postseason. It's the players themselves, the coaches and athletic administrators, the schools, the fans, and the TV executives. Those are the 4 kind of horsemen of the college football postseason, right? The reason we have all these bowl games, the reason it's been lowered to the standard 6-6 is so ESPN can have some inventory in December when there's just not a lot else going on. It's the same reason we have a bunch of college basketball tournaments around Thanksgiving. It's inventory for TV networks to get a lot more interesting stuff on TV than what they would otherwise put on there. So this system's going to have, hopefully, make all 4 of those entities happy. Let's start with this NIT bracket. It's 24 teams. And how we got there is we took, you had to win 8 games to qualify. So this is 8 and 9 win teams. You got an auto bid to this tournament if you were a conference champion that did not qualify for the college football playoff. So we have Army, Marshall, Jacksonville State, and
Ohio.
Thank you. I couldn't remember the MAC champion, but Ohio. get auto bids to this tournament by virtue of winning their conference. We're going to be at home in the first and second round. So the play-in games and the first full round are all going to be on campus. And we're doing that because athletic directors, if you read the tea leaves right now with the House decision and all this revenue sharing that's right around the corner, it's going to drastically reshape college athletics. Budgets are going to be cut. Athletic directors around the country, from the smallest schools to the absolute largest, are looking for any sort of revenue stream they can possibly find. So we're going to get one extra home game for a lot of these teams. Yes, some are going to have to travel. I think you can split the gate and split some stuff with the visiting team to kind of make those teams that didn't get to host happy, but you're going to get an extra home game for a lot of these programs. That is a huge, huge revenue boost at a time where every little thing is going to count. And then we're going to work in the bowls beyond that. In the quarterfinals and semifinals for this NIT, we worked in several different bowl games. So for the quarterfinals, I did the Gator Sun, Holiday, and Alamo. For the semifinals, I did the ReliaQuest and Citrus. And then for the final, I did the Las Vegas Bowl. That could rotate if you wanted it to. But really, These are bowls that are either storied institutions. The Sun Bowl is one of the most historic bowls in all of college football, or they're in good destinations that are either good tourist destinations or just really easy to get to for the fans. So think Florida, think an indoor stadium in San Antonio, all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think this is great because not only do you have teams that are going to be, involved throughout the whole postseason, and maybe I don't know if it cuts down on the transfer portal exits very much. Maybe it delays
probably
them.
Not the portal, but I think the bigger problem that we need to think about is the opt-outs, because you can survive some portal exits. And here's how we fix the opt-outs, guys. We get the bowl sponsors, we get the TV partners, and we get other entities to pony up for some NIL incentives. If you follow college basketball, there was a revolutionary new tournament this year in the Feast Week process called the Players Era Festival. It gave NIL incentives to the participating teams, one, just for showing up, but two, you got more money the more games you won. So if you wanted more NIL incentives, if you wanted more literal payout to your players, winning the games got you that. So what better way to turn a meaningless bowl game into something meaningful than to literally put money on the line? We already do bowl gifts, and there's that stupid limit on them that's always been there. It's like $500 or $600 or something like that. Just turn that into cold hard cash and get these guys motivated to strap it up and play.
Yeah, hopefully this keeps guys from, raiding the dollar section at JCPenney or TJ Maxx or something like that. The great Belk caper. I like it. I think as a college football fan, I look at this and go, heck yeah, let's ride. Let's see LSU in Louisville play. Let's see Colorado and Ohio play. Like, I don't know if Ohio would survive that, but then again, a lot of people didn't have Ohio surviving Miami of Ohio in the championship game either. And Ohio absolutely whooped the Red Hawks. So, you're going to have your NFL draft declarations, right? Like Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter probably aren't playing in the 10 and 23 seeded game in this model. But I do think
they're not playing anyways.
But exactly, they're not playing anyway, unless it is for a national championship. They're not playing. And they're not going to play. I don't remember off the top of my head which bowl that they're in right now. They're in the Alamo Bowl. Yeah, they're playing BYU, right? So the obvious question, I guess, is this too many games then, right? Because if you're, say, LSU, the 16 seed in this bracket, if you go all the way, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 games that you've got to play. Right. And that's a lot for a team that's not even chasing a national championship. So the question becomes, does the money then make it worth it for LSU, for the football team, for those athletes to continue to play? As crazy as it sounds, I'm actually inclined to believe that, I think if you had the right dollar amount, there's a chance that it very well could. Again, going back to what I said earlier, where a lot of these guys that are hopping in the portal, a lot of them are starters already. A lot of them are on good NIL packages, but they're being told by these agents, again, in air quotes, who have no training, are not governed by any sort of ruling body. They're not held to a standard. They are literally some random TikToker in a lot of cases who's, put together a storefront and said, hey, this is my agency. Come be a part of it. We're going to make millions. That's how a lot of these guys are being told what to do. And it's resulting in a lot of terrible decisions. So I wonder if there is some legitimacy to this idea where the money is kind of funneled through better means and it's facilitated in a much more above board way than a lot of these backroom dealings are taking place. Because if you think that all the NIL deals are going through like open doors still, you're crazy. I mean, there's still so many ways that these guys are being paid.
There's still a modern McDonald's bag full of dollars,
yes,
right?
Absolutely. Shout out Jeremy Pruitt.
So yeah,
anyway.
I think this can be above board, and I think we could find a whatever price that is, and really it would be up to the coaches, right? If they want to take this seriously and try to win the whole thing, great, let's do that. And the players can follow suit by earning that NIL money. If they want to use it as a chance to see their third string quarterback and evaluate if they need to get a guy in the portal against real competition and guys that are really trying on the other side, great. Like whatever they want to use this as, they can use it as. And the other thing that they'll get is more practice time, right? Think about those fringe playoff teams that really need that extra kick to get over the hump next year. Those teams that just missed it on the bubble. Maybe they're implementing a new system. Think about Alabama with Kalen DeBoer. Practice that system for another few weeks and get some real game reps in there. I think that's huge. Obviously, injuries are always going to be a concern, and you want to balance that with the number of games that we're playing.
Mm-hmm.
But really, these guys next year, if they're going pro, they're going to be playing a 17-game regular season. So with this, they're not going to be playing more than they're expected to play in the NFL next year or just in a couple years with some of them. Mitch, do you want to get really crazy with me?
I would love to.
Okay, here we go. So we got the NIT. Are you familiar with the CBI in college basketball?
I am. I believe North Texas won the CBI a couple of years ago, didn't they?
Sure, maybe. I honestly don't know. I love random basketball tournaments. And by the way, for this 2014 format, I used for one bracket. I'll post these on our Twitter page, and I'm really excited to see the interactions they get. For one bracket, I used a combination of the College Football Playoff and SP Plus. For another one, I just used the SP Plus. It did change the seating a little bit. But, Mitch, are you ready for the 16-team College Football Invitational, the CFI?
I would love to dive into that. Also, 2018, shout out the North Texas Mean Green, 2018 CBI champs.
There we go. So the CFI is going to be 7-win minimum. So no more 6-6 teams in these consolation NIL-driven brackets. The first round games are still on campus. The later rounds are at current bowl sites. They can bid based on NIL commitment to be a part of this thing. And from there, the top 8 seeds are going to host, and 9 to 16, we're just going to match them up based on vibes, regionality, and kind of just fun matchups. We're not really going to seed 9 through 16, but 1 through 8, we're going to get some home games again, more revenue for the athletic department, another opportunity for the fans to see them at home before they go off to the bowl game. So these are kind of some more new age bowls. I put the classic ones in the NIT bracket, but the CBI bracket, we got the Pop-Tarts Bowl, the Duke's Mayo Bowl, kind of that tier. They've just been branded on fun more than anything, because that's what this is all about, right? So I don't know. I think I did pretty good with these first round matchups here. Tulane, Texas State, Louisiana, Texas Tech for the right to play in the New Orleans Bowl, potentially Tulane, Louisiana, or Texas Tech, Texas State. I really liked Michigan and Washington State playing. Bowl season has always been about fun matchups that we don't get to see in the regular season very often.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big value, but also just finding those fun storylines that'll get people to actually come to those first round games would be really important at this level.
Yeah, I think this is great. And again, is it off the wall a little bit to have all of these different brackets? Oh, sure. But then again, we at one point had a newspaper declaring the national champion, right?
That's right.
Like,
yes.
We have come so far. And at this point, like, why would anybody say no to a little bit of creativity, especially when that creativity is purpose driven and is sure as heck better than 2 6-6 teams with half of their roster in the portal. Looking at you, famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Other than the blue turf in that matchup, like, I don't know what we're going to see on the field in that game, just because you've got so many rosters decimated by the transfer portal. Hopefully this would allow, or at least delay, the transfer portal takeover just a little bit, because I think in theory, we're not opposed to kids hopping in the transfer portal and going to find a better solution or going to find a better NIL package. Like, more power to you, right? There are good decisions and bad decisions to be made when you do that. But what sucks for college football fans like you and me is this window exists right over the postseason, to where rosters are completely unrecognizable by the time that they're playing their game post-Christmas, right? And I know the academic calendar exists. I know there's 1,000 different logistical hurdles here, but I love the idea. And I think it's a fun discussion that will continue to kind of proliferate every postseason until we decide what we're going to do besides these bowls that, you know, again, used to be so near and dear to our hearts. There was a lot of pride in winning your bowl game and getting to 9 wins, getting to 10 wins. I think there's still some of that. But when the overriding theme for a lot of these kids is, hey, where's my next payday? Where's my next starting opportunity? I'm going to leave my old program in the dust. Suddenly the bowl slate really starts to be kind of meaningless air.
Yeah. So currently we have 46 games between the bowls and college football playoff. That counts every on-campus game, every New Year's Six, and the national championship game. With these 3 setups, counting the college football playoff, this proposed NIT and proposed CBI model, we'd have 49 games. So the TV execs get a little bit more inventory. If you wanted to get really crazy, I even included all the bowl eligible teams. We can even match up 6-6 teams versus other 6-6 teams. That's what this would look like right here. We would drop 6 bowls, but I don't think anyone's going to miss. The Bahamas Bowl is fun. I think it's kind of run its course a little bit. There's some weird sponsors, and we could maybe finally stop pretending like people want a bowl game at Fenway Park or Yankee Stadium in December.
I agree.
don't think anyone wants that, but you could, if you wanted some more inventory, even for the TV executives, there's an opportunity to still include all those other teams and give them a postseason just single game as well.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think I might have fixed the college football bowl season. I'm ready for somebody to hire me and implement this, but it's more TV inventory. Think about Fox buying the rights for the NIT, right?
Sure.
Like, Fox is needing stuff right now. I think they only have 1 bowl game that they have the rights to. CBS only has 1 bowl game that they have the rights to. So they could buy the rights to a whole tournament and show that during when other bowls would be going on. You're NIL driven, so you get hopefully some more player involvement. Home games are giving us revenue. Coaches are getting more practice time. I don't know. I really, someone tell me where I'm wrong. Someone tell me why we don't need to do this. I'll wait.
I think it's a great idea. I think it's a lot of fun, and logistically it can make sense. We can bring meaning back to those games. So ultimately, though, we'd love to hear from you guys, the Jimmies and the Joes, whether you're new to the show, you're an OG. Let us know at 3TechPod, Twitter, Instagram. You can comment in the YouTube. Hopefully, if you're listening to the podcast, I would suggest going over to the YouTube side just so you can see the brackets.
I'll put it on Twitter and Instagram
and
as well.
Go to our social media as well. Maybe pull that up as you're listening, and you'll be able to get a better idea of the full picture that Trey put together. But with that, let's move over to the bowl guide. Now, Trey, you and I are writing the previews for every single one of these bowls. You mentioned 46 total games. That includes the playoff games, the national championship. We'll have a written preview for each of those as well. But what the point of this, the back half of this episode is going through the best storylines from bowl season. And one thing I texted you earlier, you look for bowl content, you look for picks. If you're in a confidence pool, pick them, or if you're doing, bowl bingo or something. And a lot of the explanation or a lot of the rationale for taking picks here starts with, well, I don't really know, right? And understandably so, with the transfer portal and guys just not being on campus for their teams for these bowl games, it's really hard to make it a definitive pick. So what I told you was we'd say from the outset, take everything we say with a grain of salt and know that everything could literally change 30 minutes after we finish talking about this, publish it, etc. But we're just going to talk about the games as we know them right now. We're going to look for the best storylines. And so for me, I think the first storyline that jumps out, honestly, is right off the very top. The Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl, where you've got Memphis and West Virginia. Memphis doesn't have a whole lot of guys that have opted out right now. Again, this could age like spoiled milk, but I love the idea of Seth Hennigan in Memphis going in and finishing his career, a career that is marked by the most touchdowns in Memphis program history at 91, and the most yards thrown in American Conference history as well. I love the idea of them beating up on West Virginia and Frisco. Seth Hennigan is from North Texas. He gets to come home. He gets to finish his career here where he's from with his parents in the stands. I think that's what bowl season's all about. I'm all aboard the Memphis Tigers in that one.
It's going to be a fun matchup. That Memphis offense, we saw them just run roughshod through Tulane last time they got to play a game. And West Virginia, the one thing that I'm concerned about always in these G5 versus Power 5 matchups is the G5 team's defense. If Garrett Green and some of those other offensive guys are actually playing, we don't know for sure, obviously. But I just said we don't know when we said we're not sure. But I am really interested in seeing how that Memphis defense lines up against the West Virginia offense if we get the team that West Virginia's fielded for most of this year. Going to be a fun one right down the street from you. It'd be really fun to go see that one in person if you don't have anything else going on a Tuesday night.
I'm planning on being in attendance for it. So, I think you'll get some content over on the Old 3 Tech social accounts from the Frisco Bowl. Jumping down, Sam Houston State is in the R+L Carriers Bowl. This is one of the best stories in college football, and I think most football fans have at least heard about the Bearcats this season. Obviously, Casey Keeler, who rebuilt this program, turned them into an FCS national champion. He's off to finish his coaching career more than likely at Temple, where he's from. But Sam Houston, in their transition year last year, finished 3-9? Is that right? And
3-9, lost their first. I think they lost their first 8, but then went 3-1 in their last 4. That's
and like 6 of those 8 losses were by 1 score, and it always came down to the final drive. Sam Houston State absolutely flips the script this season, and they finish at 9-3. To have 10 wins in your second year as an FBS program, Conference USA or not, would be a tremendous accomplishment for the Bearcats.
Would be really awesome. Only thing is basically all of that defense has decided to follow, or at least enter the portal, presumably following Casey Keeler up to Temple. That was Conference USA's best defense by far, and they showed it in non-conference play as well. They dominated Rice. They gave up a lot of points against Texas State. Who amongst us doesn't give up a lot of points at Texas State? But they bowed up when they needed to and delivered that win at a neutral site in NRG earlier this year. But yeah, we'll see the depth of that program, I would say, especially on the defensive side of the ball, as they look to battle back against transfer portal losses in that one. How about the Gasparilla Bowl, Mitch? I like this Tulane-Florida matchup. Obviously, Florida's been a really nice under-the-radar story, them battling that dreadful schedule and really bad early season losses at home to come back to finish 7-5. Now they get a Tulane team who looked like world beaters until Thanksgiving night when they got blitzed by Memphis, lost to Army on the road in a chilly environment, and now they lost their quarterback in the transfer portal.
Yeah, Tulane just doesn't feel like they're equipped to beat an SEC team right now. They don't have a ton of guys in the portal, but Darian Mensah is actually already committed to Duke, so he's definitely out the door. Kai Horton, the backup quarterback, is also in the transfer portal right now. So you have Ty Thompson, who was the transfer in from Oregon. He was supposed to win the job from the very get-go, and instead Darian Mensah, who was the third-string quarterback at the beginning of this year, wins it in camp, and the rest is history. Florida is the team that has everything to gain here and quite honestly nothing to lose. I know that it's the G5 team that normally gets that nothing to lose playing with house money storyline. But for Florida, the way that they've ended this year, beating LSU, beating Ole Miss, crushing Florida State, even though Florida State was horrific this year, that kind of momentum is very, very real. And I think for Florida fans who got to watch DJ Lagway come into his own with the Graham Mertz injury, it really feels like now everyone had been out on that program and Billy Napier was a dead man walking. Suddenly with the recruiting that's picked up as well, Florida very much feels like they could be a factor now, getting to flip a lot of those games that were on the road. Now they'll be at home next season and going on and having an easier non-conference schedule as well. I like the direction of the Florida Gators program. I'm still not in on Billy Napier as a great head coach, but I think he's got a lot of talent that can help make up for that deficiency if you're in that camp with me.
Yeah, I am with you. And I think they've got a retooled NIL program as well.
Yep.
It's really excited to go get some guys in this transfer portal class.
Yeah. Famous Idaho Potato Bowl. I referenced it earlier. Other than the blue turf, I don't know what we're going to get in this one. This was one of the hardest previews to write. We've been doing, you'll see if you go to our Substack and read our bowl guide when it comes out. We've broken it down by kind of a summary, key missing pieces, and confidence points for both NIU and Fresno State who are playing in this game. Their key missing pieces are like their top offensive players. For Fresno State, it's linebacker Phoenix Jackson, who just committed to Auburn earlier today, plus more. I mean, there's like 27 or 28 players last I counted from both teams that are in the portal right now. So I just don't know what you're going to see on the field. Neither team's going to have their starting quarterback. Neither team is going to have their go-to offensive weapons. This one is going to be a for the love of the game special. And I think folks that are tuning in are really tuning in, like you said earlier, maybe to see a little snow on the blue turf.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe it's going to snow. Maybe it's going to just be an all-out blizzard situation. That would be really interesting. But other than that, it's college football, and I think it's a standalone game. So it'll probably be on my TV, but I wouldn't blame you if it's not on yours. I think the best individual day of bowl season, the playoff notwithstanding, is going to be December 27th. Sure. Because there's a lot of fun games. Here's the slate. We can take it wherever you want after this. Oklahoma Navy in the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Can Navy stop anyone with a pulse, and can Oklahoma limit that run game from Navy? The Birmingham Bowl, Georgia Tech Vanderbilt. Love me some Haynes King versus Diego Pavia.
Sure.
Liberty Bowl, Texas Tech, Arkansas. There's going to be a ton of points in that game. Holiday Bowl, Syracuse, Washington State. Really fun teams that are going to be really interesting to see match up. And then the Las Vegas Bowl, the nightcap. I think that one kicks at like 9:30 p.m. Central. So no idea if I'll be able to stay awake for the entirety of this one. But A&M USC, a game where we don't know exactly who's playing on both of the sides of the ball, but there's enough talent on the field to make that one worth watching probably.
Yeah, I think it's funny right off the top. We kicked the 27th off with Oklahoma and Navy, and we may literally be in a situation where Navy has more scholarship wide receivers than Oklahoma does. I mean, the Sooners have lost everybody to the portal. And if you've listened to some of the rumors, like with Nick Anderson leaving, kind of pointing fingers at the Oklahoma training staff, saying they have no idea what they're doing, and they've kind of prevented him, I guess, from getting the best treatment and rehabbing injuries. Like, there's a lot of really not good things maybe going on behind the scenes in Norman. So I don't know. I think if Navy shows up and wants to win that game, we could see the midshipmen pull off a win against Oklahoma. I think the most fun game of the day, without a doubt, is Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt. Like you said, it should just be a lot of crazy. Georgia Tech wants to play really stingy defense at times, at least, and you're going to get kind of controlled chaos from the Vanderbilt offense. Diego Pavia named SEC Newcomer of the Year, and a guy that we're very familiar with, Eli Stowers, winning. I guess he got first team All SEC at tight end, right? So yeah, some really cool stories for Vanderbilt. I don't know right now if I have a leaning one way or another, but that one is going to be must-see TV. It seems like Georgia Tech, when they do get into a bowl game, you need to have it on your TV because it's going to be a lot of fun.
And this is why we don't want to completely get rid of bowl season. We spent the first 25 minutes of this podcast talking about reforming bowl season. But I don't want to lose Georgia Tech Vanderbilt. I don't want to lose this Birmingham Bowl matchup. Usually the Birmingham Bowl is one we scoff at. But this is going to be a lot of fun, man. I'm going to be glued to my TV for this one. I can't wait.
Other thoughts on the 27th? I think Syracuse and Washington State. Washington State started to lose some guys into the portal. Chris Hudson just went in, their best wide receiver. Syracuse has a couple of guys, but Fran Brown a couple of days ago came out and said, hey, we're not opting out. Like we talked as a team and our guys want to play in this game. So I do lean Syracuse in that one, but Washington State also is a team that has backbone this year. And they kind of fell apart late, but Trey, you were kind of leading the charge there for Washington State into the playoff until the beginning of November.
They did not follow my lead.
Hey, listen, whomst among us hasn't had our beloved team crumble in the month of November? We're very familiar with that. I think that one's going to be a ton of fun. Texas A&M's trying to get to 9 wins in year one under Mike Elko. USC's just trying to not finish with a losing record. Basically, they're 6-6 right now. So, oh boy, it seems like that might be a to the cliffs special for whichever fan base ends up losing that one. The 28th, not that bad either. You start with, a couple of games like you said. Maybe we wonder why they're being played, where they're being played. There seems to be a lot of rain involved in the Wasabi Fenway Bowl.
They need to move these games to some beach location in the South. That'll make everybody a lot happier.
Yeah, like the Boston College SMU Fenway Bowl last year was just so sloppy to watch. But you've got UConn and North Carolina playing in that one. North Carolina will have Bill Belichick in attendance. He won't be coaching, I'm sure, but 3 years, 30 milli for old Bill to get back into the game and go to the college realm. That's interesting. I'm sure we'll talk about that on our transfer portal and coaching episode coming up next week. Boston College and Nebraska in the Pinstripe Bowl. Louisiana and TCU. This one should be fun in the New Mexico Bowl. Louisiana just got Walker Howard to commit. He'll follow up Ben Woolridge, who's had a great career and finished this year with Louisiana. TCU's offense is largely intact. Last I checked. And so I think that offense should be a lot of fun. If Louisiana can kind of keep up with TCU, that one might be a fireworks special as well. Yeah. And a bowl game that neither program, I don't think, is really familiar with. So an interesting spot to play that one in Albuquerque. Mm-hmm. TCU really a surprising 8-4 team as well. So could be a lot of fun, but could be a G5 upset in that one. Well, and it's funny too, because at the beginning of the year in the Big 12 preview, you asked and you wrote about this. Will the real TCU please stand up? We had the national runner-up 2 years ago. We had the absolute dumpster fire last year. We talked about, hey, TCU's probably somewhere in the middle. That's the real Horned Frog program, and there they are, 8-4, smack dab in the middle of the two previous results. So, listen, sometimes we know ball. Sometimes we get things right. Is Cam Ward going to play in the Pop-Tarts Bowl on the 28th of the afternoon?
I highly doubt it, but if he does, I'd love to see Cam Ward, Rocco Beck.
That would be a great quarterback matchup. Hey, he kind of came out and said, like, we're going to put up some crazy numbers as we go out. I can't imagine that playing in the Pop-Tarts Bowl is necessarily the best thing for his draft stock.
About eating that edible mascot and capping off their college career by throwing a mascot in a giant toaster and then feasting on it. Every young boy in America dreams of that, Mitch. So Cam Ward is no different.
What are the 3 flavors that they're going to get to choose from this year? Do you remember?
Oh gosh. Hopefully strawberry, brown sugar, and cookies and cream. Those are the top 3 flavors unequivocally. I'm
trying to find it real fast. So let's see here. It's strawberry, hot fudge sundae.
Hot fudge is solid.
This article only has 2. There's 3 of them. Take my word for it. If you're screaming into your,
if it's not brown sugar cinnamon, we riot. We absolutely riot if it's not brown sugar cinnamon.
Yeah,
that would be a travesty, a national tragedy.
That's my bad. I should have come prepared with that one. The award for the longest bowl game in history goes to the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl presented by Gin and Juice by Dre and Snoop. That is later on that afternoon. That's Miami of Ohio versus Colorado State. Are you more interested in the matchup or the Gin and Juice by Dre and Snoop?
Are they doing the halftime show? Because I'll 1,000% tune in for that.
That was a great Super Bowl halftime show a couple of years ago in LA.
Yeah, it was. And didn't Barstool have the rights to this game for a while and they streamed it on their website? And
I think they did for 1 year and it didn't do great. So Shocker. Yeah, listen. Good for the kids. I wonder what the NIL package for this game is, because it certainly can't be gin and juice for all the guys.
Get some of them maybe, but hopefully not cannabis or anything like that either. But
that would be tough.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Jimmy's and Joe's. Let us know what the NIL package for the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl presented by Gin and Juice by Dre and Snoop should be. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
One thing that the bowl organizers really just dropped the ball on this year is I've come to expect certain bowl games in certain time slots, Mitch. And the fact that the Go Bowling Military Bowl is not on at like 10 a.m. on a Wednesday is really throwing me off. There were a couple more too as I go back, but like the Bahamas Bowl is the last bowl this year, and I need that to be like the first one on a random Thursday when I'm like, oh crap, did I actually submit my bowl pick'em? I don't know. Like maybe go check that real quick.
That's a good
There's
point.
just several games that just the time slots are off this year.
Well, it seems like a lot of the bowl games are clustered around the weekend. And you're right. Like we have,
it's partially because of the playoff, because the playoff has completely commandeered the whole weekend of the 21st. Yes. And they've completely commandeered basically New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So that's going to cause some ripple effects there, but
but you're right. A lot of the games,
my Military Bowl at 10 a.m. Central. I don't know.
I know. I agree. A lot of the games are now in the late afternoon or the evening on weekdays when we're home from work. I mean, listen, I have very fond memories of turning on insert bowl game here. Like you said, 10 a.m. Central. I'm like, all right, let's ride through this workday. Everyone's ready for the holidays. I'm ready for Christmas. We've officially reached the we'll circle back after January 1 discussion in the email thread. Let's watch the rate bowl at 2 p.m. and take me to my rush hour drive home. Like that's what I want. Instead,
we also need to that's another one. That one's usually at like 9:30 p.m. Central, and it's in Chase Field in Arizona, and it's just weird as hell. And we also need to call it the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. Like, why are we just saying rate? You got to really enunciate rate bowl.
I don't know if they went through like a corporate change or not. The logo still has a red arrow going down. I know when the Chicago White Sox changed their official stadium name to that, everyone was like, great, now we have a stadium that matches the future of our franchise. So, a little bit of an own goal there.
No one's thinking of the teachers that are proctoring finals that last week of school either. Like when I was formerly an educator, it was so great to just throw on a bowl game on my laptop while watching a Christmas movie after finals were done for the day.
Sure.
And no one's thinking of the educators of America.
That seems like a problem that's a little bit wider than college football, to be quite honest. That might be a discussion for a different podcast episode during the off season. I'm looking down the list. I was talking with an Alabama fan. The ReliaQuest Bowl has Alabama and Michigan. And again, we're not going to go through all of these games necessarily, but to get to show that particular individual the graphic that someone made of some scene from Godzilla where the monsters are fighting over Tokyo and it's 2023 Alabama and Michigan, and then two kids slapping each other in the ReliaQuest Bowl for 2024 Alabama and Michigan, like that's what the internet was made for, and that certainly brought me joy yesterday.
Another one that I saw just going down the list on the 31st, the Texas Bowl, is Baylor and LSU. There's a disgruntled LSU fan that posted something along the lines of, man, Brian Kelly has brought the program so far. In Ed Orgeron's last year, we were playing in the Texas Bowl and had 35 scholarship players. And now, look at us now. We're playing in the Texas Bowl with probably like 55 scholarship players available.
Yep. Yeah, not a great ending to the season for LSU. If you're Baylor, though, boy, you're feeling amazing. You went.
They were pretty mad they didn't get A&M. Their fans were up in a tizzy, saying, accusing A&M of dodging them, not knowing how bowl systems work. But LSU is a nice prize for them too.
LSU is a very nice prize. I kind of think I like the Baylor Bears in that matchup. We'll see.
Again, we'll talk. Certainly favors Baylor in that game.
That's absolutely it does, especially given the fact that the way they started, the way that we all thought that Dave Aranda was going to be packing his bags mid-season. Yeah, I think if you're Baylor now, the recruiting class, you've got some really talented guys coming in. I think you're feeling pretty good. Let's go to the new year. We'll skip over all the bowl games. Obviously, we'll talk about them in their own episode. Tax Slayer Gator Bowl stands out to me because you've got Duke and Ole Miss. Again, this feels kind of like a wet blanket for Ole Miss, who Lane Kiffin, again, I think has tweeted like 12 times since we've started recording this episode on why they should have been in the playoff. Like, he's that crazy ex that just will not stop calling and DMing you on LinkedIn when you've blocked them everywhere else. Duke lost Malik Murphy, though, to the transfer portal. I mentioned earlier they've brought in Darian Mensah from Tulane. That felt like a really weird portal entry for Malik Murphy, who he did fine this year. I mean, obviously he got Duke to a 9-3 record. They were more reliant on the pass than they were the run, but it didn't feel like Malik Murphy, who finished 71st in total QBR, was going to be at the top of that pecking order for like elite quarterbacks that need now a Power 4 home.
Yeah, and this will be his third school as well. He started at Texas, obviously. I think I saw he's connected to Auburn, potentially out of the portal.
Auburn's
like
connected to every quarterback in the portal right now. They need somebody.
If only they did that a year ago. That probably would have been better off. But yeah, I don't know. I never want to fault a kid for trying to find the best possible fit for what he's trying to do. But sometimes you also want to question who's advising them, because maybe the best thing is to get at a program, get a really good education at Duke, and try to develop something. And if you really feel like after 2 years you haven't developed, then maybe you have, I can't remember how much eligibility he has left, but I think he's a sophomore this year, if I'm remembering right.
I think he has 2 years left now.
Yeah. So if I were him, and it's really easy to armchair quarterback his decision, but it seems like it might behoove him to maybe try to develop for one more year and then go the Cam Ward route, right? Where he stayed at Washington State for 2 years, and then now he's a Heisman contender at Miami. Yeah,
that's a good point for sure. I hope Duke has enough of a team to field. I haven't seen a lot of guys from Ole Miss hitting the portal lately. It does seem like that team is going to be pretty cohesive heading in. Now we'll see about NFL draft declarations and things like that. We're still a little bit early on all of that. Last thing for me, Trey, we will be in attendance in the press box for the ServPro First Responder Bowl, North Texas, Texas State. Oh,
so they have enough beer this year.
My beloved Mean Green. They might be trotting out someone from the band at quarterback. We'll see. They've just lost all of their skill position players for the second year in a row. The offense goes burr. Everyone's feeling great, and then all the skill position players hit the portal once again. Last year it was Chandler Rogers. Now it's Chandler Morris at quarterback. So I don't know who we're going to see wearing the worm on the side of the helmet for the Mean Green, but North Texas, Texas State should at least be a fun matchup. I'll be there for the vibes.
Yeah, that's exciting that we're getting to cover that one as a podcast. Really excited that you'll be up in the press box for that one. Couple things. They need to make sure they have enough beer. Texas State ran them out of beer last year at the First Responders Bowl. And if it is the second French horn player suiting up at quarterback, I still think North Texas will be able to put up some points on Texas State's defense, because being there in person and watching a 2-8 Georgia State team just have their way on offense really was concerning for the long-term prospects of the defense. Hopefully they'll get some guys in the portal this year and shore that up. But that's the one thing that's missing down there in San Marcos.
Well, hey, look, they've kept G.J. Kinney so far. I know they lost their offensive coordinator to Texas Tech, but so far, Headman is still in office down there in San Marcos. So I like the trajectory of both North Texas and Texas State, even though it maybe looks a little bit different. That'll do it for us. We'd love to know which bowl games you're excited about. Let us know what your feedback is on Trey's NIT and college football invitational. We'd love to know, do you think those are great ideas? If they're stupid ideas, how you would alter them, etc. At 3Tech Pod social media, you can comment below on our YouTube channel as well. And we'd love to hear from you. Like I mentioned, we'll have some playoff storylines. I'm going to be recording an episode here in just a little bit. And then we will get into transfer portal, coaching carousel. We're going to have our first round playoff breakdown, all of those episodes coming in just a couple of days. So if you're new here, again, it's a great time to be subscribed. And you can follow us at 3Tech Pod on all the social media channels. For Trey Reeves, I'm Mitch Mason. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Until next time, so long, everybody.
Gracious, how about that?